Oh, section A3 or A1?
A3.
We're going to start at the Mishnah and Samach Zayin Amar Aleph. That's 67a. I think Hashem the table to learn Torah every day. Actually, there's two Mishnahs there. The second Mishnah.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's Chusav learning Shabbat Mikdash. We're learning the Nishmas and the Salas Abba Mitzian. And also the four Shleim one that needs. Okay. Mishnah says Hamediach. Mediach is a person that incites not just an individual, but he incites a city to worship idols. This is Ir Hanidachas. This is the same root for there. Mediach is to push away. So Nidachas is the pushed away. So Mediach is the inciter, one that's going to causes others. And Mediach, what does he do? We're talking about the Midiach is going to get skila, right? He says, "Let me go. Let us go, and let us worship idolatry." That's the Midiach. It's going to get the death penalty of stoning. That's all the Mishnayos, right? Stoning. Someone that does magic. If it's actual magic, then he's chayiv. He's going to be chayiv skila. But not someone that does sleight of hand. Is that what they call it there in the translation? Illusion. He does an illusion. Rabbi Kiva says name Rabbi Yeshua. Shnayim leitim kishum. There's two people that are gathering or collecting cucumbers. Echad like a pater. Now we're talking about that. He's doing this with magic.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them that's going to do it is going to be pater. Echad like it chayev. And the one that's going to do it is going to be chayev. But how does this work? And he explains. He says, the one that does it is with an action with it, which he's really doing magic and it's actually happening. Then he's chayev. But someone that does just illusion, then he's going to be pater. So Rabbi, it doesn't seem like Rabbi Akiva is arguing on the Tanakama. Right? Seems like he's saying the same thing. Okay. Let's see. Amar Rav Yehuda. Amar Rav Yehuda Marav. Rav Yehuda says the name of Rav, his teacher, Madicha Nidach Shanakan. When we're talking about here, a Midiach that has a death penalty, we're talking about a Midiach that's pushing away the stoning, talking about that he's doing what's it called? It's an entire city. It's subverted.
Like the person that tries to do the whole city.
So what's the word? What's the word for the whole city? What is it? What's the English word?
Subverters.
Subverter. Okay. That's I'm not familiar with subverter. I think the Hebrew is easier for me. But anyway, it's subverter. What does it mean? An inciter? What does it mean? A subverter.
Because here that says the Gemara explains that this refers to one who subverts a city by idolatry. Since he subverts the city, he's a subverter.
Okay. Okay.
The English didn't have
Okay, so they're talking about a whole city. Mechashif, what is the magic, the magician? Zoisamais is someone that does an action. Tana Rabbana was taught in the Brisa Machshefa. It says in the pasuk Machshefa, a woman that does that's a witch, right? It says that she should not live. But it doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman. It's the same thing, whether it's a man witch or a woman witch. Right? TCH, not a so why did the Torah say in the feminine, a woman witch? It's usually women that are doing the sorcery.
Who'd,
No, I have
palm
to,
reading?
oh, I don't think so.
Or that's,
No, I think palm reading is just the science.
it's a science?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone knows it, but it's a science, I think. Yeah. Yeah. It exists. I mean, there's everything has a pattern. You know, everything is there's patterns in the trees. You see how many rings there are. There's everything has a pattern. There's everything. So if you know the patterns, you can read it. It's not a,
Oh, okay.
you know, you can see in the you know, the scientists can look in the DNA and they can tell you different things. Other people, they can look at the wrinkles on your face and they can tell you things, and they can the lines in your hand. It's not a magic. Could be the people that do it think that they're. Anyway, I think I saw once someone wrote a letter to the Rebbe about the palm reading, about a shidduch. Should they do palm reading? The Rebbe said that there's truth to palm reading, but he doesn't believe that people know it. He doesn't believe that the people. He says they're probably just guessing stuff. They don't really. But there's a science that they just don't know they just don't know the science. Okay. Okay. Now I'm not sure if what the Gemara means. That means majority of women in the world are associated with sorcery, or is it a majority of people that are associated with sorcery are women? That's what I would have liked it to say, but in the Hebrew reading, it's mipnei sheroiv nashim. Most prevalent practitioners are women. That's the way they put it in the art scroll. In the Hebrew, and how do they? I want to know what they write in the bold in the English, but in the bold in the English they say, because it is mostly women who are involved in sorcery. Oh,
So
right. They're adjusting that.
Yeah.
Now, 1 second, let me see. It is mostly women. Nesharoiv nashim. I don't know. Okay. Okay, that's interesting. Misasim b'ma. What's the death penalty? It's very interesting. Rashi in last week's parsha doesn't tell us what the death penalty, what it is. He just says I'll be besdin or something. It says machshefa leisachai should not live. Rashi says I'll be misa I'll be besdin. It doesn't tell us which one. So what is it? Rabbi Yossi Aglili, Rabbi Yossi Aglili, right? He's a friend and student of Rabbi Akiva. It says that a witch shouldn't live. And also says later on, it says that you have to wipe out the people of Canaan, not allow them to live. Just like over there, the nations is with the sword. Afkan B'sayef, also the witch is with the sword. Rabbi Kiva says, it's interesting that Rabbi Yossi Aglili goes before, it's mentioned before Rabbi Akiva. It's a little surprise, no? Rabbi Kiva says, it says in one place that the witch shouldn't live. And it says another place that anyone that comes close to the mountain, whether an animal, talking about by the giving of the Torah, if it comes too close, whether an animal or a man should not live. And he's talking about death by stoning. Malal Beskila, but just like over there by the mountain by Har Sinai, it would be a death penalty by stoning. They didn't get zapped. Well, at least there was some of them. Some of this issue would be a death penalty by stoning. Afkan Beskila. Also, when it comes to the witch, it's stoning. Amalei Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says, oh, this is Rabbi Yossi Aglili. He says, I need Danti Leisachayim Leisachaya. I took the exact word. I said, it says over there the exact form of the verb. It's a passive verb. Shall not live, right? It says the witch should not live, or should not be let to live. And it says by the Canaanites, they should not be let to live. It's the exact same form, leisachaya. But you learned it with a different form. What's the difference? Sechaya or Yechya? Yechya. Sechaya means you should not let it live. And Yechya is it should not live. It should not live. Sechaya is actually a hifil. You should not cause it to be alive. Which means you should not let it live. And Yechya is it's just an active verb. You should not. It should not live. It should not live. Amalai Rabbi Akiva. Okay, so he's asking Rabbi Akiva. He says, "I have a better gzeira shava. I have a better comparison." So Rabbi Akiva says, "Ani danti Yisrael mi Yisrael." He says, "1 second. I compared a Jew to a Jew, talking about going up the mountain when they weren't allowed, or being a witch." Shariba b'makas misas harbi. The Torah has a lot of options when it comes to a Jew. We have 4 different options, but and the Torah chose skila. But you are learning from a Jew from a non-Jew from the 7 nations. So on the page, you didn't have all those options. You only have 1 option. So because you're learning from a non-Jew, so there was really no choice there. But with the way I learned it, there was a choice. Okay, so far we have the death penalty. According to Rabbi Yossi Aglili, is by the sword, and according to Rabbi Akiva, it's by stoning. Now we have Ben Azai. Ben Azai, we're talking about the witch. Ben Azai, it says in the Samchu in light, in right next to the verse that talks about the witch that should not be let to live. It says anyone that lay with an animal should be put to death. Now that juxtaposition. Just like when it's someone that lays with the animal, beskila is stoning. How do we know that? Because it says somewhere over there, demei and bum, that his blood is in them, right? And that means it's stoning. Beskila. Also, the witch gets stoning. So he's agreeing with Rabbi Akiva, but from a different source. Amalei Rabbi Yehuda says to Ben Azai, because it's juxtaposed, you're going to take this person out of a regular category of death, which would mean one of the lighter deaths. And you're going to give him such a severe punishment of death, such a severe death, the stoning death, which is, according to one opinion, the worst. Rather, it's different. Really, oivin yadaini. Those are 2 types of other types of sorcery, right? Speaking to the raisings from the dead and getting this bone to talk from his mouth, right? That was another type of sorcery, and it could have gone under the same category. However, it didn't. It gets itemized, specified. The halachas of Oivin Yadayni. Lama Yatsu. Why was it taken out from the general rule and given its own specification? It's coming to do a comparison and to teach you. This is a rule from the 13 rules that Rabbi Shmuel has. The rule is kol davar shahaya b'chlal, anything that was included in the general principle. But it's taken out from the general principle. It's not coming to take out for its own teaching. It's coming to teach you about everything. So here I have Oivin Yadayni, which could have been part of the general rule. They left the general rule. Why did they leave the general rule? They have skila, so it's coming to teach you about the entire rule that af machashav b'skila. So he's agreeing to Ben Azai, he's agreeing to Rabbi Akiva about what the punishment is. He's just disagreeing about what the source for that is. The Rabbi Yehuda Nami lehavi Oivin Yadayni. 1 second. This is a problem. When you learn from a precedent, when you learn from something that the Torah says that this is Allah, and you derive from that Allah is by something else as well, that's only if you have 1 verse that says it. But if you have 2 verses that say it, so we have a question. Why do Torah have to say it again if we're learning from a precedent? And that precedent, you only need one. If it's saying it again, that means it's coming to tell you that don't learn it from a precedent. I'm going to have to specify each time. So here I have Oiv and Yadaini. That means that I shouldn't learn to everything else. You can't learn from two verses as a precedent. Amar Reb Zechariah says, Ada Amra, that means on this it was taught, it was said, Rabbi Yehuda disagrees with that rule. He holds that you can learn from two verses, even though it says two verses. So all over Shas, whenever we would say, according to the one that says that you do, and we never gave a name to it, comes Reb Zechariah and says that you know who it is? It's Reb Yehuda. Learn it from here. That it's Reb Yehuda that holds that. Yeah. Rabbi Yochanan says, "Lama nikra kshafim." Why do we call magic kshafim? What is the word kshafim? Shemachishim pamalia shamalia. It's a compound word. It's made up of ke and kichesh, which kish, and then pamalia is fim. Pamalia shamayla. So it's that it's like an acronym or a compound word pushed together. Means it contradicts the hosts of heaven. What that means, the family, Pamalia, it means family. Pamalia, family. How do they translate Pamalia? Pamalia Shamaila. It contradicts the what?
The upper legions.
Upper legions, they call it legions. Okay. I think the word family comes from Pamalia. Anyway. So what does it mean it contradicts? It contradicts because Hashem says that the person should live. It comes along the witch and makes him die. It contradicts the will of Hashem. Gemara says, there's nothing besides Hashem. Even when it comes to magic, Hashem's rule he was stronger than the magic. There was this woman. She was trying to get some dirt from under Rabbi Chanina's feet, and she thought that if she gets that dirt, she'll be able to do magic on Rabbi Chanina. Amalei, he said, if you're able to, Zili Avidi, go and try it. Go and do it. I'm not worried about you. Just in Hashem. It says in the verse that there's nothing besides Hashem. There's no power besides for Hashem. Is that so? They contradict the word of Hashem. What's Rabbi Chanina doing? They can contradict that Hashem says to live. The magic can make it not live. Shani Rabbi Chanina the Nafir Sechu say you're right. Sometimes the magic can harm a person, but Rabbi Chanina had such merits that the family of heaven would go out of their way to make sure that he survived. Yeah, it's interesting that Rashi says, "Umasrei nafshei mishmaya." They would sacrifice their lives in heaven to save him. That's like a funny term for heaven. Masrei nafshayu, masrei nafshei. The heavens sacrifice their life. That's not what you would expect it to say. Anyway, okay.
Is it here that they take like that? These things are that
Believe in it?
Yeah, they give them some type of power.
That's a Gemara in Pesachim. Amar Rav Evu bar Nagri, Amar Rav Chia bar Abba. Rav Evu bar Nagri says the name of Rav Chia bar Abba. Rav Chia bar Abba is a student of Rabbi Yochanan. I think Rabbi Chia bar Abba is a student of Rabbi Yochanan. The Latayim Elamaisa Shadim. It says, sometimes it says in the Torah balat, and which means with magic, and that means it's referring to magic that's done with demons. The demons come and they do the magic. The lahatayim, when it's lahat, it has a hey in there instead of just balat. It's balahat. So then elamashik maisik shafim. That's just magic without demons. That looks like that's happening on its own. That he's able to do without the help of demons. It also says talking about the blade of the sword that was turning at the entrance to the Garden of Eden, so that Adam doesn't eat from the tree of life. It says that there was a sword over there that was turning. Now it says balahat acher. Lahat means that it was working on its own, not with the help of any demons. Amar Abaya. Abaya says the kapar amana shade. If the way of doing this magic is that you need a specific vessel to do it, you need a wand, and then you say abracadabra or something. You need a specific wand, or a specific vessel to do the magic, then it's because you need a demon to do it. The like kapar amana, if you don't need a specific vessel, this one or that one, anything where you could use any vessel, then kshafim, then that's considered magic, not demons. I'm not sure what the difference is. But Amar Abaya, Hilchas Kshafim Kilchas Shabbos. Abaya adds in, he says that the laws of kshafim, of magic, have different categories. Just like Shabbos has different categories. On Shabbos there's death penalty, right? Like the things that are deraisa. Then there's the rabbanon, and then there's mutter. There's pater avalasar. You're not allowed to do it, but if you do it, there's no punishment. And then there's so yeshmem meskila. Some of them are stoning. Yeshmem pater avalasar. Some of them are exempt, but it's still prohibited. Yeshmem mutalachatchila, and there's certain things that are absolutely permissible. If someone does an action beskila, that's someone does an action, that means he does real magic, that he actually makes things happen. So then that's a death penalty of stoning. If it's just an illusion, then it's forbidden, but it's exempt. Here it seems that illusions are forbidden. How do we have like these magic shows? And the guy pulls a rabbit out of the hat.
When the illusions were okay, which is like finding pretty involved. The illusion is just like the people don't see the thing appear or disappear, but it really is not really magic.
Well, we didn't say it's okay. We said it's pater. We said it's exempt. Exempt means that it's prohibited. It's just exempt from the punishment. But an illusion means he does a card trick. That's an illusion. So how did he do that? How do you figure that out? These guys, they have all these tricks. You want to see this quarter disappear? Yeah, So it seems to hear that that's us. No, there's no punishment, but it seems like it's us.
I feel like there was a time where people believed that it wasn't really a magic. Power.
Jonathan's suggesting that there was a time when people thought that illusions were actually real magic, and so that's why it was asa. But now everyone knows that it's just an illusion. Today they had at one of these concerts, the Hess concert recently, they had they were able to project in the smoke Shlomo Kalbach playing a new song. They in the voice with like AI, they got the voice to sound like Shlomo Kalbach, and so that would be I don't know, that's clearly an illusion. They looked on the stage, they had like the smoke, and they had like a project, it looked like he's there with his guitar.
In that case, like kids don't know, like kids are still it seems like it's magic.
Right.
And sometimes they have like fingertips that light up. Just people don't know.
It's a light bulb. It's a little thing. I guess things that we do today that are obvious, that we have a cell phone and you can call it. Years ago they'd say, how do you find out that information?
Magic.
It's magic. Okay. What's mutal lechatchilik? Rav Chanina Rav Aisha, like Rav Chanina Rav Aisha, we had this on a page and a half ago. It says that kol Malei Shabbat, every Erev Shabbos, Havaski b'Hilchas Yitziro, it switched it now. In the laws of creation, the Gemara before it had it as Sefer Yitzira. Sefer Yitzira, it switched the word on us. Isn't that interesting?
Before they said they were learning Sefer.
I know. Here it says they're learning the laws of Yitzira. Different than Sefer Yitzira. The laws of Yitzira may be some other book. I don't know. Sefer Yitzira looks like a grammar book. It doesn't look like a secrets book. It tells you how many letters can make, how many combinations you can get from 2 letters or 3 letters. That's just math. Okay. And they created this calf that was a third. I don't remember how we explained the third. Meant maturity. And then they would eat it. Okay, and that was permissible. That was permissible. Did they have to shecht it? I'm not sure. Did it say they shechted it before? No. But over here we're talking about the magic part. This was permissible because they were using the names of Hashem. Rashi says, and that wasn't like the impurity. That was actually doing with holiness. They used the names of Hashem that He used to create the world, and they made it. That's not magic. Okay. Amar Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi says, Chazina le'lavua dekarna denafetz. Did I skip?
No, I was reading that.
Rav Ashi says that I saw Karna's father. Karna was a friend of Shmuel. How could he have seen Karna's father? I mean, it's a different Karna. Denafetz. He was blowing his nose. And rolls of silk were coming out.
That's such a popular magic trick. Silk out of
Dr. Stein can do it.
It's a nothing trick. Yeah.
I was listening to a shiur on Hilchos Shabbos about the loom, about weaving, and it was talking about how the Mishkan, they were able to do one side, they were able to weave in one side, and he was explaining how to do it. And then he quotes a Rashi in Shabbos that says that it was a Maisa Nisim. Says it's a miracle that how they did it. He says, I can show you how to do it. He says, and if you want to give me a kvittel, I'm ready. I'll take the, if you think I can do magic or something, do miracles. So, okay. This was by the plague of lice. It says that the magicians told Parai, this is the finger of God, because we cannot replicate this in the laboratory. We can't do this. Can't do what they're doing. Rabbi Eliezer says, probably Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer says, Mikan, from here we see here we see that a demon cannot create anything that's less than a barley. Once it gets too small, then they can't deal with it. Rav Papa says, Pelikim, it's like by God, like I can't believe you're saying this. I feel like even a camel, they can't create. They're not creating anything. All they're doing is they're pulling it in from some other place on the planet, and they're gathering it together. That's what they do. They don't really create anything. They just pull it together. I don't know, whispering stuff, and the birds come and the camels come, or whatever. But they can't do that with lice. Rav tells his uncle Reb Chia. One time I saw an Arab merchant. He took a sword and he cut a camel. And then he banged his bell or a cymbal or something, and the camel went back together. He cut it up and then he put it back together. That's a good trick.
Yeah.
Well, Amarle, they said.
hump just like a bone that actually comes off the back?
So.
Try this out.
He asked about the camel hump.
Yeah.
Is that a bone or is that just the?
Got the camel one hump or two?
Okay. Amalei lebasar hachi. As Reb Chia tells him back, lebasar dam who parta mihavi was their blood, and was there any blood? What is parta? And what is it? And innards and the guts. Did you see any of that? You didn't see any blood. You didn't see any guts. Obviously, that was just an illusion. An illusion. That wasn't real.
I don't know. How does this jive with Chenek, where there is no blood, but the person's still dead?
No, here he cut it in half, and then he went back together. There should have been some blood. Zeiri Ikla Alexander Shal Mitzrayim. Zeiri went to Alexandria. Zavan Chamra, he bought a donkey. He gave it to drink. Pasha, the donkey melted. Become Gamla Diskanisa, and the camel turned into a board. This is a used car slot. You thought you bought a car, you drive out. It's hardly a bicycle. So Amrulay, it turned into a surfboard. Amrulay, so they said to him, "You love Zeiri. If you weren't Zeiri, we wouldn't give you your money back."
Wow.
Everyone over here, whenever you buy something, you always have to check it out with water to make sure if it's really there. The whole place is like an illusion. You're like in Disney. You don't know what's real.
I wonder if this is the origin of in the Wizard of Oz when the witch goes, I'm melting.
Oh, maybe. Do you hear that, Reb Naftali? Dr. Stein is referencing the Wizard of Oz, where she says, "I'm melting." Okay. Yanai Ikla. He approves. Yanai Ikla Shpiza. Yanai went to this inn. Amalahu, he says to them, "Ashken Maya, I'm thirsty." Krivish Asisa, they gave him some flour and water. It's like a porridge type of thing. Chazid the Kamarakshan Sif Vasei. He noticed that they're whispering. The hostess is whispering something. Shada Portamine, without them seeing, he poured out a little drop. Habiakri sees that they were doing magic on it. They were doing their incantations or something. Anyway, he poured out a little bit. It was turned into a scorpion. Amalahu, he says to them, he made it look, if he drank some. So he says, if you drank a little bit, so then, there's something missing. So he says, see, I drank some. Now I want you to drink. And you drink from mine. Ashke. So they drank. Habechamra, woman turned into a donkey. Not a donkey, a camel. No, a donkey. Kamra, a donkey. Rachba, he went on top of the donkey. Salak Lashuka, and they went out into the market. Okay, he's right. He has a new donkey.
An Uber.
Right, Uber. Also, Chavert, the friend comes. Pashilai and Meltzer. Chazid Derachev V'koya Itza B'shuka. She turned back into a woman. He's right. Everyone sees he's riding a woman in the marketplace.
So she turned.
Was this permissible? You hear the halachic shaila on this? Was he allowed to marry a woman? Not marry, to ride on a woman that wasn't his wife? That's when she's a donkey.
When he got on, she was a donkey. It wasn't a woman.
It was really a woman.
Why not our wives deal with their husbands when they're acting like donkeys?
Yeah.
Okay. That's right.
Yeah.
The frog came out of the river, but Eretz Mitzrayim, and it covered the land of Egypt. So when it says it in a singular, it says the frog. It doesn't say frogs, even though it's a plague of frogs. But the way it came out, it says a frog came up. Amra below what's Shrek?
What's Shrek? Oh Wait,
Baruch
Wow.
Hashem. Something has to do with a donkey.
So Amar Rabbi Elazar says, "Fadei achas haisa." There was one frog, and Shritza Malakal Eretz Mitzrayim, and that reproduced. That reproduced, and it filled up all of Egypt. It started off with one frog. We always learned that the people were beating it,
Yeah, that's what I heard.
and because every time they hit it, another frog jumped out of its mouth. That's the way we were told. But that's not what the Gemara says. The Shritza sounds like
There's only one frog then?
one frog came up, and then it
One
gave
massive-
birth to many.
Oh, okay.
Kitanoi. This is a machlekes. Rabbi Akiva says it was one frog, and that one frog filled up all of Egypt. I don't know how that filled up all of Egypt. Maybe because it reproduced.
the donkey.
Uh-huh.
That was his best.
Amalai, yeah, what do they say over there?
They say a single frog.
A single frog, but how did it reproduce according to Rabbi Akiva?
44.
Oh, the single frog itself filled all of Egypt. Okay. Amalai, Rabbi Elazar ben Azai, Rabbi Elazar ben Azai said, Akiva, Malachet Salagada, what are you doing with discussing Agadata? Kale midvarei secha, the lech eitz on the goyim va'oles. Go away from your this path, and you go back to your topic that you're good at. Stick to your day job.
That's not the first time you said. You said that you told them before.
Could be. It says we had it before Lamed Ches. It says this is Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah telling Rabbi Akiva. There was one frog, and this one frog was like a frog leader. It whistled to all the other frogs, and they all came, and that's why Egypt was full of frogs. What's happened on Lamed Ches? Ches Amad Bez. Yeah, over here it was. This is about he said it again. He said it over here. Okay. Amar Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva said that that depends. Sometimes it could be chayv misa, sometimes not. Depends if there was an illusion or not. V'har Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yeshua Gamal, or Rabbi Akiva learned this from Rabbi Yeshua. But Tani, we have a brisa. He learned it from someone else. He learned it from Rabbi Eliezer. Kishchol Rabbi Eliezer. When Rabbi Eliezer was ill, nichnasu Rabbi Akiva v'chaver levakre. Rabbi Akiva and his friends came in to visit him. V'hu yeshiv b'kinaf v'shalai v'hen yeshiv b'chaklin shalai. He was sitting in his canopy, and they were sitting in their room. That day was Erev Shabbos. The reason why they're sitting separate is because Rabbi Eliezer was in Cherem because of the argument about the Tanur Achnai in Bab Metzia. They had an argument about if this type of oven was tamei, and Rabbi Eliezer said that it's tar. He refused to accept the verdict of the sages, and they put him into Cherem. So they stopped studying with him. But when he was ill, they came to visit him, and they're not coming so close. They're staying keeping the distance. Anyway, his Hyrcanus, his son, comes in because Erev Shabbos. When Shabbos comes in, he can't wear tefillin. So Hyrcanus comes in to remove his father's tefillin. Gorbai, biyatza. Rabbi Eliezer yells at his son, and he leaves. Benazifa, like in shame. Well, Amar Lehen, so Hyrcanus tells to the sages, Amar Lehen Lachaveirav, says to the people, must be my father's losing his mind. He doesn't realize it's almost Shabbos, and I have to take his tefillin off. Amar Lehen, so Rabbi Eliezer says to them, him and his mother are going crazy. They're so worried about Shabbos. But meanwhile, they didn't light the candles yet. They didn't put the cholent up. They didn't do all the things that are important. They're worried about my tefillin. That's only a derabanan. The other things that they need to do are deraisa. They saw, oh, he's a smart guy. Nichnasu, he's not a smart guy. He still has his marbles. He's still with it. So nichnasu v'yashvil in front of meirachik daled amos. They came in and they sat closer to him, but the distance of 4 amos. Amar lahem lama basam. He says to them, why are you here? Amru lay. They said to him, Lil my Torah, we came to study. Amalei v'adachav lamavasas. Why didn't you come earlier? Amrulei lehelam panai. We were busy. They didn't want to tell him because you're in Cherem. Amar lehem tmi ani am yemusa misa satzman. I'll be surprised if you guys have your own natural death. Amalei Rabbi Kiva says shlimahu. He says, what about me? Rabbi Kiva says, Amalei shelcha kashim yishlam. Yours is going to be even worse than theirs. Not till stays the race of Inicham Alibi. He takes his 2 arms. He puts them on his heart. Amar. He said, my 2 arms are like the scrolls of the Torah that are concealed. In other words, you didn't come to learn from me. You're not going to get all of this Torah. Harbi Torah limadati. I've studied a lot of Torah. But Harbi Torah limadati, and I taught a lot of Torah. Harbi Torah limadati. I studied a lot of Torah. I studied so much Torah. I didn't. Okay. But I didn't get from my teachers even what a dog laps up from the sea. That means that what I got is that what it says there? That what I got was so little.
Before that, it said, but I did not diminish my teacher.
Yeah. Okay.
Even though.
Okay. 1 second. I didn't diminish from my teachers even from what a dog. In other words, what I got is so little from my teachers. I studied a lot, but even that, as compared to the teachers, was like was like nothing. And Harbi Torah limadati, I've taught a lot. And the only thing that my students have taken from me is what you get from a mascara tip. You know, what you put into the thing, what comes out is nothing. Not only that, but I can teach. I know 300 halachas about saras. No one ever asked me about them. Not only that, I know 300, or some say 3,000 halachas when it comes to magic about planting cucumbers.
Oh, yeah.
How to plant them with magic. No one ever asked me about them except for Rabbi Akiva. One time when we were walking, Amarli, he said to me, Rebbe, teach me something about cucumbers. He said one thing, the and the entire field became filled with cucumbers.
Whoa.
Amarli, he said, Rebbe, and you told me how to plant them. And how do you harvest them? I said one thing, they all came one area, like as if they're, like a pallet of cucumbers.
It's amazing. He seems to be speaking nicely about Rabbi Akiva now because they're learning together. Yet a few lines back, he was essentially cursing Rabbi Akiva. He says, you can have the worst death.
Yeah. I don't know if he was cursing. I think he meant that he was saying the future. I don't know.
Well, you mean that he was part of Asura Ruge Malchus?
But you're right. He told him that if you would have come, Rashi says, if you would have come to study from me, you would have been saved.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So it's like first he's saying,
yeah.
But wasn't that?
But I don't know if that's a curse.
They're bros.
But
No,
wasn't
they
that to
talk.
all of them?
Yeah. But Rabbi Kiva, he said, was worse.
Oh, yeah, but that was like.
Why was Rabbi Kiva worse?
Different lingo.
He foresaw.
He foresaw, but it was foresaw in a way that it was because they didn't come to him to study.
Yeah. Well, he was Akiva's teacher,
Right.
so he was still teacher
Rabbi
student.
Rabbi Kiva was the one that informed him that he was in Cherem. Remember that? Rabbi Kiva came to him dressed in black.
Mm.
it sounds like he was very embittered.
Yeah.
But also, if he's Rabbi Akiva's teacher, so still had more obligation to go learn by him. The other ones.
Right. That's why he was worse. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. All the novelists, they like to write about Rabbi Akiva and, and this, like, so interesting. But Rabbi Elazar Harkness would have been a better novel. Much more drama. Okay. So you can ask AI.
Rabbi Elazar Ben Harkness was on Univision.
Amrali, so he said, okay, Amrali, they said to him, Hakadar, that's a type of leather ball. The Amos is another type of leather ball. Vakameya is another type of leather. It's a kameya is an amulet, but it's made out of leather. With Srora Magolias, and also this another type of package of pearls. Mishkelis katana, and they would hold a weight also in a leather pouch. Mahu, what's the din regarding them? Now, what's happening here is that there's machlekes Rabbeinu and the Chachamim about if these are considered a keli. Are they makabel tama? Now, usually a leather is not makabel tama unless it's a receptacle, unless it can hold something. Over here, it can hold something, but it's already filled. So the Rabbi Lezer held that it's makabel tama, even though it's filled, because even though it's filled, it's already stuffed, but it's still considered a vessel. That's stuffed. The sages said that no, once it's stuffed, it's not a vessel anymore. These are like stuffed balls. Is it considered a vessel or not? So that was a machlekes. And Amar Lehen, they were asking him, do you still agree to your opinion after you had this argument years ago? Amar Lehen Tamei, he says, yeah, they're Tamei. I still hold by my thing. Tarasan, what about, no, and then there was a second machlekes about how to make them pure. Rabbi Eliezer held that you can put them in the mikveh together with the stuffing. He held that wasn't considered a chatzitza. And the Chacham held that the stuffing would be a chatzitza. He held that it wouldn't become tamei, but if it was tamei and you put it in the mikveh, it would be a chatzitza. So he says.
Didn't we learn in the end in the Mishnayos that you have to put it in upside down? So how can you put it in with stuffing?
He holds that it's not a problem. He says that you just put it in. The tarasa mashahin as they are. And it's good, it's not a chatzitza. In others, he holds by his thing. Minol shel gabi emasmal. What about a shoe that's on the mold, on the form? Is that considered a finished product? It's finished, but you didn't take it off the Amalahan Hutar. He held that even though it was finished, it was still not, because he didn't take it off yet, it was still tar. He says, I still hold by my opinion. And his soul left, as he said the word tar. He cured it. Amar Rabbi Shol Raglov. Rabbi Shol stood up. Amar Hutar Neder. We have annulling the oath, which means that he was in Cherem. The Mitzvah Shabbos after Shabbos Pagabe. You see, this was all on Friday afternoon. Yeah, and after Shabbos Pagabe Rabbi Akiva min Kisri. Rabbi Akiva didn't spend Shabbos with them, and Rabbi Akiva meets up with them. Kisri lalud. He was banging his flesh at Shadam until his blood was flowing. Pasachalav Beshura. The whole question: how is allowed to do that? Pasachalav Beshura. When they would say they would stand in the line, the mourners. So he said, "Avama Rabbi Abi Rechi Yisrael Prasha, my father, chariot of Israel, and its rider. Happy Ma'is Yeshli. I have a lot of money. Mainly Shulchan Aruch, but I don't have a money changer to exchange them." Alma Merav Akiva Gamra. You see, over here he learned about the laws of cucumbers, and we said he learned it from Rabbi Yeshua about what's considered magic, what's not. He showed Rabbi Eliezer taught him these halachas. It says Gamra Rabbi Eliezer v'lei Savra, Rabbi Yeshua v'Asper Nalei. He heard it from Rabbi Eliezer, but he didn't understand it. Afterwards, Rabbi Yeshua explained it to him. Hechi Avid, Hachi, how was Rabbi Eliezer allowed to do this magic to teach him? He did it in it Yechayev, Yechayev Skila. He says, L'Islamid Shiny, you're allowed to do the magic to teach. This was teaching. Amar Mar, Leitilmad Lasis, you're not allowed to study this to do. Lasis, you have to lamed. To do it, you're not allowed to study. You're allowed to study this, you know how to paskin. Okay, Hashem tomorrow, Dr. Stein.
Okay.
Yeah.